So Devyani works at a company called Boundaryless, and she is a business analyst. She has been an active member in the community as well. Like if you all have might seen her tutorials, like the first time I saw some tutorials of Devyani were on task capture. So that is something that she had posted, and at that time I came to know about Devyani, and after that she has posted a lot of content as well, sometimes videos or sometimes posts and all that. So welcome, Devyani, and thank you for accepting the invite for conducting this session with community. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Parth, for such a nice introduction. Thank you so much, very generous of you. And welcome everybody, and thank you for joining for this session. So, yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the proper content of our today's session. So today's session, so everyone who is there in the meeting, it is not going to be something like a one-way communication. So what we are trying to emphasize right now in community events is making it interactive so people can share their experience or the automation problems they face, right? We do not communicate with everyone every day, but there are some topics that can be addressed in this common kind of session. So feel free to put in anytime any of your questions or pitch in for anything that you want to say, right? And any suggestions you have, or you think we are going fast, slow, anything, just the chat window is always open. Feel free to put it into that. So like you all have registered for the event, our today's event is going to be about understanding the importance of reusability in automation. Now, this is something many people that I talk to have observed that they think that is only a responsibility of a solution architect or a lead developer or something like that. But it's not something like that. Reusability is a concept or is a thing with technical perspective that everyone should learn. So in this session, we are going to focus on understanding it from the scratch with some practical use cases that Devyani has to show, right? And we will see how it can impact the organization, what are its benefits, and it is not something only a solution architect should know or a lead developer or senior developer should know. It is anyone who is involved in the development part, be it junior, senior, or anyone, right? They should have knowledge about this. So like Devyani, like I have told so much about reusability and all that. So why don't we start with the basic definition of what a reusable component in UiPath is?
So, as the name suggests, Parth, it is the collection of activities or any piece of code that is not limited to one project. That is, can be used in multiple projects. So, we can say instead of writing the same code again and again, we can create one component, one reusable component, and that can be used in other projects as well. And that's why it is also considered as a best practice as well, because it is robust, it is easy to use, it is quick, it is fast, and that's why we call it a reusable component, right?
Right. So, Devyani, like one more follow-up question to this. When we say reusable component, it is just an activity or it can be a workflow as well. So, like what it is.
So yeah, it can be a workflow. Like reusable component means the collection of the activities
Right.
that we have in a workflow.
Right.
So that is called a reusable component. That's we say we don't say reusable activity. It's a component, right?
Right. So component can be an activity, component can be an workflow depending upon the project requirement.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. So I think that is a pretty straightforward explanation. Anything that we can reuse in one or two projects is something which is reusable component, and its identification is important, like not doing the same thing again and again, something
Correct.
like that. Right. Okay. So this is helpful. Anyone who in the audience has some other definition of understanding a reusable component or any other terminology to explain it, then feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat while we move ahead with the next question. Okay, so Devyani, like I understood what is the concept of reusable component, right? Now, how beneficial it is to a developer, right? Because this is not something which can be just like I will open the studio and I will develop it, right? It is something that will need my specific amount of time. I will have to dedicatedly think on that, do some brainstorm, idealize on that, and then I have to build it, right? So why should we put more focus on this, or why should I invest my more time in designing and developing the reusable components? Like, what do you think are the benefits or what you have observed in your project?
Yes. So I'll start with, first of all, it is the efficiency. Efficiency
Okay.
means it will save a lot of your time, because
Mm-hmm.
there is a part of your solution that is already built and available. So you don't need to create it again. So
Right.
this way it is efficient, and it gives us a way to work and build a solution faster. So first point is from my side would be this. Then second is consistency. You will have a greater control over the quality of the product, because reusable component, creating a reusable component comes in a best practices, which helps in having a reliable and a robust solution and implementation. And
Right.
also its use produces a better quality of software, right?
Right.
Then next, I would say pre-tested code. So, so the reusable component is a code that has been already built and already been tested, right? Which means
Right.
there will be a less possibility to encounter a problem during development. And like I already mentioned this already, like it will save a lot of your time. And again,
Right.
it will result to this point itself says it will result to have a easy testing, because there are only few places. If your code runs into some error, this part is already tested, you don't need to look into it. There will be another
Right.
part, you will directly go to that, and because of this you will have a chances of having issue will be you know less, and only the newer part will have it. So yeah, that's why
Right.
I would say invest your time to identify these components and creating.
Right. So, and one more thing that I feel like these are definitely the ones that you said are definitely very helpful for in any of the development life cycle of a project. But the other one that I think is, let's suppose we are using a reusable component in 10 of our projects. In one, the error comes, and let's suppose the next ones are to be scheduled to run in next 1 day or 20 hours or something like that. So if we encounter in the very first bot that is being executed, and we resolve the error in next 1 or 2 hours and put that upgrade of the package, right, then it will automatically be resolved in the next 10 projects as well.
Exactly.
So
There is,
that is something will
yeah,
save a lot of
a lot of,
time, and it will, the ROI will not be that much impacted, because like every failure has some impact on the ROI or the execution of that project. So like having it common within the 10 projects, it can better improve the exception handling kind of scenario as well. So this is one more advantage that I feel like it is to be
yes,
considered.
yes, exactly,
R-
exactly.
right. Okay. So yeah, again going back to the audience, anyone having any other benefits that they feel should be added over here, or something that they have encountered personally. I think we initially talked with Shreya. So Shreyas, Rahul, Azhar, anyone you think you have implemented something like this and have some similar experience with respect to reusable components and would like to share it with the audience?
Hi Parth, Purnima here. Hi Devyani.
Hey
So
Purnima.
thank you so much for actually highlighting the at a top level the impact, especially the last point, Parth, when you said that when we run multiple bots with the same reusable component, how quickly. So that gave me a magnitude of the importance of how important it is, like the effort that we put in into that reusability of
Right.
code. Yes, it is an effort, because I am basically a hardcore fan of reusability, but I have not experienced this larger level of this, that even motivates me more to do it. So currently in my project, I'm also doing a reusability of computing certain flows across various countries. So what
Right.
I'm doing is I put it up in a flow chart, and flow chart I've made it very generic, so
Okay.
it is reusable. The computation is specific for each country. So whatever computations I need to do, which is specific for each country, I'm keeping it outside the flowchart. So
Right.
I am kind of passing those values as arguments into this,
Exactly.
so that the flow is standardized. So
Right.
tomorrow, if I have to add new countries or I'm typically I'm handling right now, it's about 10, 12 countries, but it can go up to 60, 70 countries is what I'm hearing. So all I need to do is just, add those, in switch cases, I just need to add those countries and just computation of a particular value that I need to compute. So that's all I need to do. So that itself gives me a lot of comfort in terms of a very futuristic maintenance thing, like even if you want to add or delete a country, feel free to do so, but my workflow is not going to get impacted much. So that gives a very so thanks for doing this, and it's great. So I'm looking forward to what's coming up. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Purnima. So, and one more thing, like you said, you have the list of countries stored somewhere like that, which you might have to update. So for now, it can be in a config file, right? Or it can be as an argument to your activity or something like that. But if you want to put it into your reusable component, what you can do is integrate storage buckets. So in storage buckets, there can be a text file in which the list of countries can be updated or removed every time. So that file is read every time within your process or your custom activity, whatever it is there. So it will become more centralized version of your handling the list of countries. So storage bucket integration will be like an advanced version of your activity. You can see that.
Oh, wow. Okay, thanks for that, Parth. I don't know much about storage buckets. I've not used it.
Right.
It's great. Usually I do it for config files and things like that, but storage is something I've not explored. So thank you so much. I will look into it. That's awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Purnima. Okay. So yeah, Devyani, coming back to our conversation, and thank you, Purnima, for your engagement with the audience as well. Now, we saw like with development perspective, we have a lot of benefits. Like the first frustration of a developer also is reduced when this kind of reusable components are available. Now, when we talk about something on an organizational level, like we discussed about this 10 bot use cases, like if same component is being used, right, it helps the business in lot of ways. Now I would like to understand a little bit in detail that if an organization start focusing on and tells their developer to build that kind of reusable components, because now with UiPath marketplace updates and the organizational profile on that, right, the monetize is being started. So it is visible that UiPath is also taking very seriously the concept of reusable components, because other than that, they wouldn't have monetized the marketplace and made organizational level components available. So what is the impact like from your perspective when you are as a business analyst, when you are making the documentation or you are analyzing the process, and like the thought process, I know it goes on like this can be reusable, this can be reusable. So what is the impact on the overall organization, Devya?
Yes. So first of all, the first point is the time that will be taken during the development will be shortened, because some of the portion of that particular solution is already available. So first is the time, and when comes the time, it obviously it is straightly connected to the cost as well. So less amount of development means reduced software development and maintenance cost, both development as well as maintenance, because of it, like I have already highlighted, it's a pre-tested code. So maintenance will be little less. And most importantly, the main point is the final product will be having high quality software with good standards, right? Because there are the components that are already been developed, and that we are using the best practice. Then this leads to shorter development, and all these things are linked with each other.
Right.
The final product will be a high quality product, and this will also increase the productivity of the software, because you are able to complete a particular job, particular trade. You are able to create the software in a quicker way. This means you're able to create new softwares. You are involved in other solutions, creating this will these are all linked to each other. So I would say when you are working on reusable component, you need to see the bigger picture. So if, for example, well, I will discuss about the example. So I'll We'll move it to
Oh, we have that dedicated thing for that to explain the scenario
yes.
based question. Right. Okay. So now, Devyani, one more thing that I feel the audience might be interested in knowing is, let's suppose we two are the developers, or like there is a team of 10 developers working, right? And you are doing a project in which you identified a reusable component, right? You built it, and now we are using it. Now, let's suppose I am a developer, right? And I want to use the same package that you have developed in your project, right? So what is the process that we make it centrally available? Like, do we upload it on the cloud orchestrator that we have, and
Yes.
then that is visible in the managed packages, and we have like a common documentation, or is there some any other approach to that particular thing, making it available to the all the developers within the organization? So like, what is the approach of the making the availability of the reusable components?
So, but there are actually how to create a reusable component. There are three ways to do it, right?
Right,
First of all is using activity creator that we have,
right,
which is
right,
actually for the advanced level users, which are good
right,
in
right,
.NET. Although UiPath has provided us its own activity creator
right.
plugin, using that it is very simple now to create your own reusable component. But I would still say it is kind of little
Yeah,
advanced involved.
yes, because that is something where you need good knowledge of C sharp
C sharp
and some designing concept like HTML, CSS kind of thing to make your activity designing. So yeah, like even I have tried it, but I face some difficulty in building through that as well, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So the first is activity creator that we have to create. The second one.
The second one is object repository. So
Okay.
in object repository, we can, I'll take an example to explain this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So for example, there is one application and it has a login screen over there,
Right.
right? So and we know that login screen or maybe any page or any you know the component that we are automating can be
Right.
used multiple times during the development. Okay.
Okay.
What we can do, we can capture that particular UI element and
Mm-hmm.
make it centralized, so
Okay.
that that particular UI element can be used anywhere.
Okay.
You don't need to every time capture and
Okay.
refine its selectors. You
Right.
can centralize it, which is available throughout the project.
Right. So
So
this is we are talking about when we have to reuse the UI elements.
UI element
So
particular.
okay, this is a little more interesting. Like till now we are talking about an activity or a workflow, but now with object repository we can also create reusable selectors. So again, the one more advantage to that, I think it is like update the selector at one place and it is reflected at the all.
That's it. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay, that is another like a very useful feature by
Very
UiPath, I think, of object repository. Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Now, from audience, if anyone who is someone like a lead developer, solution architect, and has done this kind of reusable thing at a higher level on an organizational level and would like to share experience or have some comments on what me and Devyani discussed and would like to add anything, then feel free to unmute yourself. So we'll take like a minute or two pause before anyone has anything to say.
Hey, hi Parth, this is Mukesh. So I
Hey,
just have
Mukesh.
something to add on what Devyani
Yeah,
just told about object repository.
yeah,
It solves a pretty, very big problem with selector. It is that once if you're not using object repository, what
right,
happens when you have coded the thing and it is deployed to the production, that means your entire nugget is a part, your entire selector are part of the nuggets, right?
right,
And in
right,
case of any UI change is happening, that means you have to redeploy the entire code
right,
because your click activity has a different selector, your type into has a different
right,
selector. With the help of this object repository, what happens? This object repository is deployed as a separate packet to the orchestrator. Now what happens? In case any a single selector is changing, you just update the object repository. You don't have to change your entire nugget again. So that is again one benefit of reusability using this
right,
object repository. Yeah.
right, right. Yes, yeah,
Perfect. Perfect.
definitely. Thank you so much, Mukesh. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else who would like to add anything on object repository or other than object repository on like in general about reusability in automation, like Devyani and Mukesh and Purnima also shared. Like anyone from the audience, I see many people right now. There's Rahul Sharma, Vishal. I think Vishal can maybe tell something from a managerial point of view.
Yeah, hi Path. I joined late. So
Yeah,
yeah, no problem. So basically, this object repository, I think we covered good points. Like
right,
basically, the as the name suggests, right? We should have the anything which is reusable should go into the repository. I think that should be part of a governance as well,
right,
because I think apart from development, the governance and the architecture is more important on how we are actually doing development. Because development, anyways, you will get an output. You can do it
right,
anyways you want, right? But
right,
doing it in the right manner and seeing that bigger picture will help the organization in kind of getting a more value add. And once you have that value add and proposition propagated, then you can have it as a standard, your development standards
right,
and things which you set up. And just like we have RE framework, right? So RE framework
right.
is so much popular. That's not the only framework, right? You can still have things which you can kind of add to it. And I think, yeah, I think we are having the right discussion in this point. Yeah.
Right. Totally agree. Totally agree. And yeah, like I think that is like a good number of points covered on object repository
Yeah.
or in general about this as well. Like, and the one very other good advantage is of reusability is mental peace for lead developers, solution architect, because they do code review of like so many developers, right? So if they see that this part was developed 10 months back and is still being used without any problems in hundreds of automation, they do not have to worry about that will that part work or not. And by luckily, if that is something which is playing a crucial role, that part, that reusable component is playing a crucial role in that complete bot, then it is like less stressful and a good mental peace for all the solution architect or the people who review the code in the team. They do not have to go and check that again and again, and the code review cycle is also very much speed up with this particular process. So this is also like one more advantage. Yeah, Rahul, are you saying something?
Yeah, actually, yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, thanks for these pointers on object repository. Just to add one more advantage, actually, which I have actually recently observed, is that migration activity. So if you know that I is getting discontinued
Right,
and people are migrating to Chrome, there are some legacy systems which are painful, but they are legacy systems, so we can't actually change the entire infra, but we'll have to
right,
bear with the changes of the system. So in that case, object repository is actually helping us a lot. Earlier, what we used to do, if there is any, for example, there is only one selector change also, we'll have to change the entire, nugget,
right,
one more round of UAT and everything. So currently, object repository is helping in that stage as well, which is actually, I would say lessening the time and energy spent on that migration or maybe update due to the legacy system. That is one major
right,
advantage which I think I have seen recently on that part. And apart from that,
right,
object repository is great. It takes care of multiple, I would say, uh, components as such. And just to add to that, like currently everything is on Studio, right? I mean, you need to just connect to that
yeah,
package and get it done. As Mukesh highlighted, it's a
right,
new package, so we can manage that package
right.
access also from folder on the orchestrator. So actually, that access management is also, I would say, enhanced if we use object repository, so that
Right,
who needs to access it, because not everyone should access it and just keep on updating or using it. That is
right.
also a layer which we need to take care and also be exposed to so that we can use it efficiently. So
Right,
yeah, I think
right,
that's about
definitely.
it.
Yes, 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 definitely. Thank you so much for adding that on. Yeah. Okay, so now we have had like a lot of discussions and like lot of theoretical discussions. Now you might be thinking, is there something actually going to be practical or are we going to see something practical? So now I'm going to hand over the complete session control to Devyani and she will walk you through some of the reusable components she has built and how it has been identified. And now you will get like the detailed knowledge of this particular thing. Like we aren't going to go step by step of developing a reusable activity or a component, but we are going to just see an high level idea of what Devyani has implemented in her projects or in her learning. So over to you, Devyani.
Thank you so much, Parth. So I am going to share my screen now. Just let me know. So can you see my screen?
Yup, Devyani, I think it is visible. And just a second, Devyani, like before you start. So while Devyani is explaining, if anyone has any question, feel free to put it in the chat. Either I will answer through chat or I'll have it noted for Devyani to answer before we close the session. So just feel free to use the chat window.
So reusable component, we have already discussed so much about, theoretically and the concept and everything. So although like it's not, specifically limited to only to solution architect that already Parth has highlighted, not only to the development, it's just a concept. So here now we are going to do some exercise on reusable component, how, identify these. So I have prepared one case, use case over here, and it's a very simple use case. I'll take just 1 minute to explain this. So it is a purchase order management which involves Salesforce and SAP, two applications. And this is what the bot is required to do, this flow. So the bot needs to log into the application, navigate through some pages, enter the purchase order details. Then there is a button to generate the PO. Then that Salesforce automatically email the PO to the vendor. But in between, there might be possibility that email is found or not found. So if found, if the email doesn't found and the error happens, the bot needs to email department one, which will look into manually. So that's the part of Salesforce. Then the bot needs to go to another application, continuing with SAP. SAP will navigate, enter the PO details over there as well, and save the changes. And again, there might be possibility of getting error while saving that into the SAP. So in that case, if error happens, he needs to now this time needs to email to department number 2 to look into manual. Then close the SAP and ends the process. So I would request our audience to please identify the reusable component over here, and I would give you a hint. Please see the bigger picture over here, and you can answer using chat.
So like I said, we are not going to have this session totally like a one-way communication, like just the speaker is speaking and we are just talking throughout 1 hour, but we want you all to engage. So just feel free to unmute yourself or yes, chat as well. So Devyani, I have two answers, or I think there are four answers in the chat. One is the login part that people are talking about, and one is the email part. Then I see yes, login into SAP/Salesforce. So these are the answers that we have in the chat, Devyani.
Great. So shall we wait or shall we move on to our answer?
Yeah, let's wait for a minute. If anyone unmutes or like puts it in the chat, after that we can just simply go ahead. Yes. Close SAP 2. So there are answers from Vishal, Pranam, Shreyas and Sandhya. Login, email, SAP Salesforce, entering the purchase order details. There is one that is also being mentioned by Manisha. And then we have, yeah, login, SAP Salesforce, enter PO details. If the screen are same on both, like if it is same every time, then yes. If not, then it cannot be, because like the window will change, so it will throw an error. So yeah, now let's go ahead to the answer and see how many of them have answered it correctly.
Yeah, okay. So here is our answer. So as you can see, a very common thing is login and log out of any application. So because this particular portion or this particular sub task can be involved in multiple projects within the organization or maybe outside the organization. So yes, that's correct. Login and log out from SAP, login to Salesforce application, and yes, emailing. So I would take 1 minute to explain why this should be taken as a reusable component. So emailing to a different departments or different people is one of the common tasks that is required in any automation solution, or maybe it may involve in many places during development, during creating any solution. So what we can do, we can define a common details, credentials, email account details of the bot where the bot is running, and store it in the orchestrator. And we can just pass on the information like subject or body or whom you need to mail to, and by argument, and can reuse the same component, right? So, yeah, congratulations to the people who answer correctly.
Right. So yeah, let's take again a pause over here. Like, anyone having any questions on what Devyani explained, or like the reusable components that she identified with the explanation? Do you all think is there is something else to be added or a different perspective to be seen for this particular reusable component? Anything that anyone would like to add? We'll wait for a minute. Okay, Devyani, let's go ahead and let's see. If any question comes in, I'll ask you to pause for a minute.
Okay, okay. So now our exercise number 2. This is very interesting one. I come across this particular process last year. It was more complex, so I have taken a small portion of it. So uh, this use case is specific to the engineering industry, where there are various equipments that needs to be designed, and during that designing, uh, there is input required from different departments, rotating, electrical, mechanical, like this. So there was a one Excel sheet that was involved, which requires input from all these departments. So there are different columns that needs to be uh, filled by these departments. So in this example, I have taken just these two departments, and how the bot will go is there is an in the shared drive, there is one sheet, equipment template sheet. Bot needs to create the copy of that main file in that temporary location. Then he needs to lock the sheet with only the required columns that needed to be filled, particularly to that department as editable, right? Then email that file, attaching that file, and before moving forward, delete the temporary copy created on that temporary location. Then wait for the response, and when the response arrives, read the response, download the file. Then lastly, perform the calculation as per the input of the department. These calculations are different for each department. So let me highlight that. Consolidate the result and end the process. So over to you, audience. Please answer. Let me make it visible, all the components over here.
Okay, so Devyani, we already have one answer. Looks like all the department 1 and department 2 can be reusable. So this is the first answer we have. And second is like, yes, +1 to that from Aman. He says, yep, that is something that can be reusable. Okay. So yeah, anything else that you guys feel can be reusable over here, or which should be reusable according to you if you were the developer of this particular project?
So we are getting complete process.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Let's wait for a minute, and then we'll see. If no answers, then we'll move ahead to the solution like we did for the previous one. So Pranam has an answer: Excel copy, email, and Excel calculations. Okay, Excel copy. So yeah, copying the file from one place to other, and email and Excel calculations, whatever we have. So this is something that should be reusable. Yes. Okay. So now, yeah, Devyani, let's go to the solution of this particular thing.
So thank you, Parth. So let's move. before moving, let me explain one thing. So yes, both of the departments, at the same things are happening for both of the departments. So that's right, that only one workflow file can be created, to solve this by passing the values and everything. That's fine. But when we talk about reusable components, the answer is these three. So let me explain here why these three are the reusable components. So yes, definitely we can use one workflow, but talking about the reusable component, I would say the first is lock the sheet with only the required range as editable. Why? Because Excel is a very, very common tool that is used not only at one place. It is very common use everywhere in every organization. It's a very common tool, right? So there is many possible scenarios, many projects in which the Excel has to be used in a very much secured way um, uh, between multiple people or multiple departments, like in this case. So especially while automating the process where a particular Excel sheet involves interaction with multiple departments, this is a very good candidate. So yeah, so my first answer is this sub-process. Second is email, like I have already explained in previous use case. This is the second uh, good candidate as a reusable component. And the third one is reading the response from the mail and download the attachment. This is very common thing that happens that we face in our projects, just to read the responses depending upon the subject or a keyword or maybe the sender, and then if there is any attachment downloaded. So yeah, these are the answers. Any questions on this?
Why not the Purnima here? Why not the other point? So the delete the copy from temporary location because the location changes, is it? Why
No.
isn't that reusable?
Purnima, for deleting, we already have a simple activity available. So I don't think like
Okay. There are no multiple things, just already in existing activities there. Okay.
yes. Similarly, with creating a copy, there is already an activity available. So it is not a good candidate for creating a reusable component, which is already exists, right? And the last one, perform calculations. This is not a good candidate because this is only and only there can be prepared one workflow, but as if we see a bigger picture where it can be used apart from this project, no. So, and plus the calculation depends upon the department. So different departments, different calculations. So this results to not a good candidate for reusable component.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, they're very, in this case, like the earlier which you were showing the example, right? So in that case, email activity cannot be reusable, right? So for email, we have only one activity, like we can do it with single activity.
Okay, so that's interesting. I'll answer to that question in coming few minutes because I have prepared why this is a good candidate for reusable.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Okay. So I think Devyani, like people quite properly have understood this two use cases along with the example. So like you were saying, we have that practical activity also developed. So why not we just go to that and show everyone like what that activity is about and how it is being designed and why it is like a good candidate for a reusable process.
Yes. So for emails, that's why I have taken this email part as why this should be a reusable component. So this is a library that I have created reusable as to be used as a reusable component. So like I have already explained in very large projects, like one of from my experience, I worked on one project which was very big, which contains 10 sub projects inside it. And inside in each process there were multiple times that email needs to be sent, sometimes to the IT department, sometimes to other department, this and that. So what happened is I created this particular workflow and deployed it in Orchestrator as a library. So what I did, I defined the server credentials as an asset and the server info also at one place. So let me also show you how I defined over there. Just give me a minute. So, yeah, explain further how this is defined as an asset. So on a high level like this, I defined the server, domain, port, and everything in the asset created over there. And here what I did is just first of all get the credentials from the server, then the server information, and store it in this variable. Then to make it more generalized, I also give one thing. If there is an attachment, that's fine, good. If there is no attachment that is not required to send sometimes, so in that case, just define empty list. Then also I give here one default sender, sorry, recipient over there in my asset value. So if uh, you need to send to some ABC person, you can mention that email ID. If not, that email will by default go to the default value that has been defined in the asset. So in my case, it was the system engineer. So in default, I defined the email ID of the system engineer. And also in some cases, I need to send this email to vendors. So in that case, I passed the vendor email ID. And by this, I managed both the cases. Then to make it even more dynamic, I have given here the option of using the send email activity. So I have defined here all the kinds of activities that we have: Exchange, Outlook, IBM, and in the argument we can pass what kind of mail type we can we want to use to send the email. Any questions? Please.
So what I think, this is something like all-in-one kind of an activity for mailing operations that we do. So this is something like this. What I feel. Yeah, Shreyas, any follow-up questions that you have for this particular thing, or anything that you would like to add or understand?
Yeah, this makes sense. I was thinking like she is using only one activity, but she is having a couple of the email activity. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why we see, if we see the bigger picture. So like this, this particular workflow is not actually limited to one organization. We can share it with other people, other developers also, right? So like in this way, we can, this is this is one of the example that I have picked to explain the reusable component, how to create it. So over to you, Parth.
Okay. So yeah. So Devyani, one more thing. Can we just execute this particular work, this particular activity that you have developed in a process, and just show like how the output goes? Like anyone, like the Outlook one that you have set up. So can we just run it and show to the users, like show to the audience in this session how it is, how the output is visible?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So first of all, we need to publish it. So just we need to, go to publish. We can give the package name. Like in here, I have this one. We can give the version name. So suppose this is version 0.4. Then we move to next step. So here we have two options to publish. First is custom and second is orchestrator. So on organization level, we always publish this library to orchestrator. Custom is, just for the local. We use it like here. I have deployed it at my local only. I have created one folder called local libraries, and over there I have published this NuGet package over there. And next is if we want to, if this is an optional thing that if we want, we can get the certificate. But here I haven't used it. I make it very simple and just publish it. And I have one workflow ready with me where we need to install this package. And then we pull the activity creatable over there. So quickly moving on to this process. So how we can do it? Just need to go manage packages. I'll go to my local package. Okay, wait, there's one more thing. We also need to include our local created folder where I have stored my library. So I have already created over here and mentioned the path. And my folder name is here local library, and I have given this package as local created packages. So when I go in here, you will find here my recently published package. I just go here, install it, and save. As soon as this get installed, you will see in the dependency. Yeah. So you can see I have my library successfully installed, and when I go to activities, in here I'll see my send email. So in here is my reusable component. Arguments. When I go to properties, I will see all the arguments that I defined over there. And as you can see, because I have given the default values, so these are appearing over here. Okay. So I will be using my mail type SMTP this time. I'll not give any mail because I want to mail this to the default person, and maybe in the email body I would mention we can use, we can use it in according to our need. We can define an HTML body and then use it, or maybe in a text, whatever we like. Okay, and run the file. So let's see what I got. So the default value was from my working email ID to my this email ID, and I have already over here. I received it. Any clarification, any points to mention, or any questions? Please feel free to highlight it.
So yeah, Devyani, I have one question. Like for client, we have one production VM. Okay. So on that VM, we have configured our Outlook. Okay, but what sometimes does that Outlook is getting sign out. So at that time, the bot will not send us the email, and then we need to manually log into that particular VM and then again sign into that Outlook application, right? So for this, like we do have any like alternative approach or any solution?
So Outlook sign off each time, or is there any reason why?
Yeah, I don't know what is the reason. Like sometimes it is getting signed out after a month or let's say 2 months. After like some interval, it is getting signed out.
Okay, so let me share my experience. What happened during my when I was working on this project, and where I come up with this reusable component. So what happened there? The support team asked us to implement only the exchange activity. What happened? Due to some reason, this exchange activity was not working at all. And we tried each and everything. It was not working. So what we did, we in this place, just in one place, we put a try catch. In try, we give exchange activity, and in catch, we give the Outlook activity. But because sometimes exchange activity was not working, but Outlook activity was working. So in this
Yeah.
way, we handle the situation by giving try and catch to my exchange activity, and in the catch, the other activity which was working that get triggered whenever exchange was not working in try section. Okay, so maybe you can try something
Yeah.
around it, right? Maybe
Okay.
if you are using Outlook, try using another activity. If it is working, put that Outlook activity in try catch. If it works, fine. If not, the catch part will trigger. And you know the best part, you will need to do it at just only one place, not in each and every place. If you have this reusable component with you, I hope
So,
that will help. Yeah.
so there is not a such thing like if the Outlook is getting signed out, then there is no such thing, right? We need to use
No,
the
Shreya, so I have faced similar kind of problem, and like when I was working in my previous organization, we
yeah.
tried to find a solution for this, but we like could not get anything. Like even we didn't knew, so we checked the logs, everything so successful. So we were
Yeah.
like, okay, and that was the time when my UAT was going on. All right, so I was like very happy after the bot was built, and I'm like, yes, everything is successful. Now the clients might have got the mail, and then we get a mail in evening that did the bot execute today? We do not have any mails. So then we
Yeah.
go to the server and check, and so that is the like the one thing that we have to constantly do. After that, in like the next 3-4 days of UAT, I every 3 hours go and check the server that Outlook is getting signed out or not. So that is
Yeah.
something that is like manual dependence is there over, like Shreya said.
Yeah.
But if
Exactly.
there is something that we can try to get a solution on this. So like if you get, then or if I get, then we'll definitely connect post session, and yes, we can sometime discuss
Yeah.
on this as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought you guys will be having some idea. Like this is the common issue, right?
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
common issue and pain point for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Parth.
yeah,
Thank you, Devyani.
thank you, Shreyas. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I think Devyani, you very well covered the use cases which like helped everyone in this session to understand about reusability, a component, and somewhat on that part as well, like how a email reusable component can be built, which can just have simply all the configurations and that we have, right? So yeah, there is something from Pranam that it might be a group policy enabled by IT as a security measure. Okay, Pranam, we might definitely,
Might be.
yeah, we can definitely check on that as well. So yeah, like I was saying, so okay, Purnima has a question. Yes, please, Purnima.
Hi, thanks for the fantastic session. Both the use cases were lovely and it gave a lot of insights on how and what we can reuse. And but my question is, okay, we have understood how, we know what to reuse, but what to use for reusing? Like, for example, I can use a reusable workflow, I can use a reusable library, or I can use an object repository. Or I mean, I have not personally used object repository, but I know that you can create some reusable. So
Right.
what are the factors that we will consider to know what kind of reusable component is needed for us at the moment? And how do we look at a problem statement in that angle? Yeah.
Okay. So Purnima, like to approach this kind of thing, right? What you can do is when you are developing a process, right? Let's suppose there is something like the configuration file which we have, right? So let's suppose I'll give you an example. Now there is an organization who has all their config files on a SharePoint website. Okay. So all the files are on the SharePoint website, and in every project, you definitely will have a config file and you will read it into a dictionary. So the normal REF framework takes it from a local path, but here we have it on a SharePoint. So you can develop a reusable component where you are downloading the config files from the SharePoint, reading it into a dictionary variable and giving that as an output. So that can be your custom activity. Now, that is how you, when you are developing a process, right, or when you are understanding it, you can understand it in that way. Is there something that you feel which can be, might be needed? Let's suppose one more thing is converting your JSON to a data table, not a nested JSON, but a simple JSON, right? Like what we have normally and not a very complex one, right? So that is something that can be taken into consideration, that a JSON to a data table thing that will always be there, right? Then if I talk about with respect to Excel or something like that, right? Then in Excel, I think we do not have something like to add and sheet or something like that. We have for delete sheet, or we have to hide, unhide all that things. But if you want to add a sheet, or if you want to have like color coding kind of thing, and one more can be, many times in a mail, we send a data table integrated within the mail. We do not send it in a file, but we send it in a mail. Now in that mail, let's suppose the formatting which is there is like normal lines and the columns that way. What if I want to give color to my headers? That will be my an HTML body where I put the colors using the CSS code, right? Style code. That is what I can do.
Great.
So this can be your reusable component, styling your data tables in an Outlook email. So this is how like normally you can, when you are developing a project or you are just getting started with it, have this kind of factors in mind, which can help other developers, or like, let's suppose it might not help other developers, but it can make them think that why did I not think of this kind of reusable component, right? So even if you put someone in that stage, then it is like a good reusable component according to me. So that is the approach I think you should follow for like any of your projects, or even if you are working in teams. So yeah, this should be Purnima.
Right. Thank you so much. So whether we use a library or whether we use a workflow or whether we go with any other tool, I mean, the kind of, sorry if it's a naive question, but I'm just curious to know, I think based on, from my understanding, I think based on how far your project is going, whether it is a very localized project or whether it's a departmental, interdepartmental or inter-organizational, I think you take a call on the reusability also, I presume.
Right. So let's suppose you get a project for an HR department where you are going to automate 25 processes. Yeah. Now, there is where you try to identify that common thing. But let's suppose you are getting a project where you are for sure, that there is only going to be one process. So the reusability scope of that particular component should be for that one particular project only. But when you know that your team is automating 25 processes, so that is what has to be kept in mind, like the scalability of your reusable component throughout the bots that you are going to build. So that is something like there are multiple factors which keep on changing depending upon what kind of project that you are working on. So, but these are the common factors.
Yeah, I think we need to see the scope actually. So like, for example, Purnima, filtering a email depending upon a subject, a keyword, and then downloading the attachment. It is very common thing which can be used anywhere. So the scope is this. So this is reusable component using maybe a library, right? Then come to Excel, whose scope is even bigger than this. This is one application, like I said, it is very commonly used. So this comes under, I would say, we have so many, already we have so many things available in marketplace, but I would go, if there is something related to Excel or any, thing around it, I will definitely go with activity creator.
Yeah.
To activity creator, I create the reusable component. And then it comes to some applications which are, not so common, maybe used, and very rarely, not rarely, I would say, which is limited to only some organization. For example, I have PeopleSoft. If there is something you want to automate around that, I would go with there may be many processes that within the organization. I'm talking about only one organization right now. So if there are many processes that needs to be automated using PeopleSoft application, and within the organization, I would definitely go with the object repository, because its scope is little. So I think it is, for me, it is only the scope, smaller than bigger, and the biggest, like this.
That's great. Great. Thanks for this lovely input. I also came across this very nice reusable component which converted a very complex nested XML to a CSV and to a data table. I think those are great. And I personally used it in my project. And I even pinged the person who had, I got him in LinkedIn, and I think his name is Rahul from WonderBotz. So I actually pinged him and said, this is so useful. I mean, it's actually very, very useful, such components. So thank you so much, both of you all. I mean, it's wonderful. This session is really value add and very useful for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Purnima. Thank you. Okay, so I think, yeah, we have already passed 5 minutes for this session time. We have planned. Any questions if anyone has, or anything that they would like to share or ask, or other than that, we are good to end the today's session. And like, thank you so much for everyone being engaging throughout the session, answering the questions and actively taking part in it. So if anyone has any questions, we can take that up for a minute or two, or else we are good to end this session.
Yes, Parth, I have a question. First of all, thank you, Parth and Devyani, for nice explanation. I have a question regarding, I never used a reusable component in my project earlier, but if I want to use for our team purpose, so is there any need to maintain any document so team can easily utilize that component in future, if any project, it will be useful?
Right. Yeah, like Devyani, if you want to answer it, please go ahead.
Yes, definitely go for a document where you can keep the track of your reusable components. Yes, you can. But the point is, identifying the reusable components is very important. How and which part needs to be, used, because there is little bit, I would say, effort required to create this reusable component. And if it is not adding value to your organization, to your team, then it is, no need to invest your time over there. So I think the most important thing is here identifying the right part of your task, which can be reused within the project, or like we have, different scopes involved here within the project, multiple projects, and outside the organization as well. So we have, we need to see the scope over here, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else having any questions? Okay. I think there are no questions. So guys, the recording will be available on the same link where you have RSVP'd. It will be available like by tomorrow or maybe by tonight, 12 a.m. Right? So thank you so much everyone for attending this session. Thank you so much, Devyani, for taking out time for conducting this session for the Mumbai chapter and making it a very interactive one. So thank you so much, Devyani, and thank you so much, everyone. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.